Welcome to the Iconic Instruments Parametric tutorial video. As with all our tutorial videos, down below in the description of this video is a hyperlinked table of contents. So just click on the hyperlinked timestamp next to the topic you want to learn about, and it'll take you forward to that section of the video. Let's just quickly go through the purchase and download process. Here we are on our new site, and when you hit buy on any product, you'll see our new embedded Moonbase storefront pop up on the right-hand side with your product in it. You can actually X out of this cart and continue shopping if you want to add more things as you go. Once you're ready to check out, just hit the checkout button, and you'll be brought to this screen where you fill out your details, your email, your name and address, hit continue. And here's your summary page where you can apply any coupon codes you have or change your billing details. And you can scroll down here to enter your payment information. And you can check this box if you want to join our mailing list to stay informed. Hit pay now. And that will complete your order. Then you'll receive this email from Iconic Instruments where you'll see your serial number up top and some brief instructions. So if you just go to the bottom of the email, you can either create an account or log in if you've already created one. When you click that button, it'll take you to our web page where you will, in this case, I'm entering a new password. And then you'll see your list of products. And if you just click on the product, you can see the installers and the serial numbers. So this is our new Moonbase embedded storefront. Previously, our links would expire and we'd have to reset them. Now you'll have your own user login area where you'll be able to access your installers, updates, and serial numbers anytime you want. Just a quick note for Pro Tools users. By default, Pro Tools organizes its plugins by type. You can change that in your preferences, but by default, it's organized by type. Currently, at the time of this video, our plugin effects are only categorized in the effect category. So if you're looking for the Model 660X exciting compressor, you might think to look in Dynamics. Currently, we have it categorized as effect. So for all of our effects plugins, as I said, you're gonna have to find it in the effect category. We're working on how we can change that. So in the future, that might be different, but at the time of this video, you'll find our effects plugins in the effect category. For Macintosh, once you've downloaded your installer, just go to where you have it saved on your computer and double-click it to start the installation process. And that will open your installer app. The first screen is just an introduction, a welcome to the installer. Just click Continue to the next screen. The next page shows our end user license agreement, and then you have to agree to the end user license agreement to continue. Here you can decide what platforms you want to install. So if you want to just select one of those platforms or a couple or all of them, here's where you can make that choice. Click Continue, and the installer tells you how much space you're going to need, and you click the Install button to continue on. Then you have to enter your computer password, and then it starts writing the files to your Mac. And this should only take a minute. Finally, you see this pop-up window saying that the installer app wants to modify apps on your Mac. Just hit Allow. And that will complete the process. Just hit the close button. And now it's installed on your machine. And the next step is authorizing it on your machine. To authorize your software on a Mac, you just have to go to your DAW, whatever DAW you use, and instantiate the plugin. The way to do this in each DAW is different. So I just have an audio track set up. So you just have to go to your plugin pull-down menu on that track and then Parametric. So the first time you instantiate it, you see this authorization window. Now this is an update from our last activation window. So in this case, when you enter the wrong serial number, it will reset and give you an error message. So you know that you can just enter the correct serial number and go forward. So if you enter the wrong serial number, you'll get this message that says license failed to activate. Then when you enter the correct serial number, you'll see the message license activated successfully. And just a second or so later, the plugin will open up and you're ready to start using it. And once you authorize it the first time, it will be usable on any DAW on your machine. The process is very similar on a Windows machine. Just find where you've downloaded your installer, double-click it to start the setup wizard. Currently, the first window that pops up is this message that reads, "You want to allow this app from an unknown publisher to make changes on your device." We actually do have a valid Windows certificate, but for some reason it's not being recognized right now. So we're working on that. So by the time you see this video, that may have already been solved. and you may not see that pop-up happen. But for now, if you see that, just say yes, and it'll take you through to the next step. So the next page on the Windows Setup Wizard is the End User License Agreement. You have to accept the agreement and then hit Next to move to the next page. The next page is where it asks you where you want to install this. By default, I just always leave it in the Program Files folder that it creates for you. But if you have a specific location where you want to save it onto an external drive, this is where you would make that change. Click Next, and now you're ready to install. All you have to do is hit the Install button, and it starts writing files to your location. This should take a minute or two. I'm just going to fast forward in the video, and then you'll finally see the last window in the Setup Wizard where you just have to hit Finish. And now it's installed on your machine, and the next step is to authorize it on your machine. The process is almost exactly the same on a Windows machine. Just open up your DAW, whatever DAW you use. In this case, I'm going to be using Pro Tools. And in an audio or instrument track, just go to the plugin pull-down menu. You're going to want to select multi-channel plugin. And as I said, all of our plugin effects are organized in the effect category. So the first time you open the plugin, you'll see our authorization page. This is our new authorization page. So if you enter the wrong serial number, it will give you an error message and reset so that you have another opportunity to enter the correct serial number. So here's what it looks like when you enter the wrong serial number. You get an error message. And then when you enter the valid serial number, you may see a pop-up window flash a couple times, and then you'll see the plugin open up. Once it's authorized in one DAW, it will be authorized on your machine for all DAWs. For the Iconic Instruments ParametrEQ plugin, I thought it wasn't warranted to do a separate intro, demo, and tutorial video, so we're just going to roll it all into one. We're going to introduce the product, we're going to demo it a little bit, do the feature set, give a little history. It'll be a jumping off point to talk about EQ more broadly. So Parametric is inspired by a particular historic parametric EQ that was used in the 60s in particular. The way a parametric EQ works is that it has fixed frequency bands, and each of those bands you can push up or push down. And the way it works is that it's a variable Q. So in other words, the width of the node itself gets narrower the more you push up that frequency or push down that frequency. So if you're just moving it subtly, it's kind of a broader node. As you push it further, it gets sharper. So it has a fairly smooth quality to it. So on all these tutorial videos, we're going to use the same drum stem. Drums are a good example because they're broadband. There's low frequency from the bass drum. There's a lot of mid-range information from all the drums. And of course you have the cymbals, which give you a good example of high frequency information all in one place. So let's go ahead and instantiate the parametric. The way to do this in each DAW is different. As I said earlier, in Pro Tools, you're going to have to find all of our effect plugins in the effect category. So let's just turn on parametric. And there you have it. First thing I want to point out is that if you want to rescale it, just the lower right corner here, just grab it, drag it out, or drag it in to resize it. And like all our plugins, if you want to return any parameter to its default value, just click Option click on a Mac and Control click on a Windows machine. And each of these frequencies is kind of musically significant. So to me, kind of this mixing engineering, we're talking about EQing, it's almost like the way wine people talk about wine. They kind of use these linguistic things. So they'll associate, for example, low frequency 50 hertz there with woolliness, like very low frequency energy. So if we're listening to our drum loop and we're pushing up 50 hertz, we're going to hear some of that bass drum just get a little bit of weight, but it's low enough that it's kind of subtle. It just warms it up. It's got that woolly quality. Now, conversely, if you want to take any weight out of something, it can be useful to just use this 50 hertz to carve it out. So you see it gets a lot thinner there. Now, if I look at 130, I kind of associate that with like where most bass drum beaters kind of hit. Somewhere between 120, 180 in that range is typically where you hear the actual beater. So let's have a listen. And conversely, if you want to smooth that out, you can just pull it down. While adding woolliness. It's a pretty exaggerated example, but that's where I think of these things kind of living in general. So this low-mid band of 320 hertz, generally the 300 to 390 range, 300 to 400 is associated with muddiness. So sometimes you'll see people as kind of a standard move in their 2-mix, their master bus EQ, they'll pull down around 330 hertz, just a couple dB. Because after you have drums and bass and other things that live in that area kind of compounding, it can get a little bit muddy. So it just creates a little bit of clarity by dipping that a little bit. So it's kind of useful on a lot of sources. So let's just check it out. Just a subtle change like that too, it kind of gives a little bit of clarity. So you can go extreme depending on the source material. That's a very scoop sound. And if you go the opposite direction like that, it gets a little boxy. Now with regard to the mid and high mid frequency bands here, the 800 and 2K frequency bands. Mids are kind of general. I mean, there's so much that lives in that area that you can't really associate it with any particular thing. As I said, this is more of a subtle tool. The Q is wide as you're just pushing it subtly, and it gets sharper as you go to the more the higher end of +8 or -8. So I found a bass pick sound at specifically 1.2 kilohertz, or maybe it's 800 or 500 hertz. But that's something you'd want to grab with a very surgical tool, a very narrow Q, and push it up right at the right frequency if you want to emphasize something like that. This is not really that kind of tool. This is more general, looking for more mid or high mid push or removal. So check it out. Let's just do a little sweep so you can hear the difference. So generally the rule of thumb is 3.3 kilohertz is the kind of resonant frequency of the average ear canal. So if you want to get a vocal to be more articulate without just pushing it forward, just push up 3.3 kilohertz, adds a little bit of clarity, cuts through a little bit more without being louder. So that's kind of a magical frequency. But then when you get just above that, 5 and 6K is associated with sibilance, so kind of harsh sounds. But again, this is, the way this works. So the parametric EQ is that as you push it up a little bit, it's still kind of broad band. So it's subtle, it's smooth. So if you're looking for high frequency, if you're looking for brightness or treble, as they label it, just push it up a little bit. It gives you a nice sort of almost a shelf. It's really great on those hi-hats. Pushes it up, like I said, because it's broad. When you're pushing it just a couple of dB, it just gets almost a shelf-like quality. Similarly, if you want to take down that section, that actually gets kind of dark because this track kind of needs a little boost in the upper frequencies here. So 12.5 kilohertz, that's very high up. Anything over 8K, 8 or 10K, people refer to as being airy, the airiness of it. And so because it's that high up, it's not necessarily going to grab anything that's like stabbing or harsh, but check it out. And similarly, if you're really looking to darken something down and you don't need all that high frequency information, this is a good spot to do it. But because this is a parametric EQ, it's not surgical. You're going to have like a nice smooth effect. It's going to be subtle. But back in the day, they didn't have surgical tools like we have now. So this is the kind of thing people use. This was used on a lot of famous recordings. So let's just go through automation. Every DAW is different in how you implement the automation. But in Pro Tools here, we just click the Auto button. We select the parameters we want to automate, add it to the list, hit OK, and then they'll be available from this pull-down list here. So let's just take, for example, 130 hertz. I can simply go in here and draw in a change. And one of the improvements we've made here recently in these last slew of plugins is in our automation window, we've actually made an effort to have it reflect what's in the GUI itself so that they're consistent. So instead of the parameter going from 0 to 1,000 or 0 to 1,000,000, we're just having it match exactly what's the labels here are on the GUI itself. So you can see here, we're dialing it in, +8. It lands exactly where you'd expect it to land. So it's a little more consistent. It's easier to see what's going on. So let's just automate a move in here. And you can automate any of these parameters, including the power switch. So if, for example, you want to have it off during the verse and then have it switch on in the chorus, you can do that easily. Or change any of the levels of these parameters, you can easily do it. If you have any questions or if you run into any trouble, please feel free to email us at info@iconic.nyc. And join our mailing list at iconic.nyc to keep up with new products, updates, and blog pieces. As always, thanks for checking out Iconic Instruments.